Well, hello there, YouTube. I am Jeremiah Gibbs, and I have a lot of weight to lose. I am making videos about my tirzepatide journey on a GLP-1, and this is my 6-week update. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what I've been learning, a little bit about how my eating habits have changed, and how my sort of just daily routines have changed, and then to give you guys an update on my weight loss so far. You know, I do this because a couple things. First of all, I have a PhD in theology, which means I really like doing research. I like being nerdy. I know that can help other people. It helps me to just be accountable, of course, to doing this well and to be able to talk about it. But I really want people to know about the process and what I've learned from it. And I know that my kind of nerdiness about research and so on will be helpful for you as you get along on your journey too. So this isn't a hype video. This is just an honest check-in about where I am and how things are going so far. And I know that it can be helpful to folks like you. This tirzepatide process, the process of taking this GLP-1 med it's not a miracle drug. It is a process, but it is an incredible help to the whole process of getting healthier. And I'm really kind of blown away at this point in the process. And so I just want to be able to tell you a little bit about what that's like. So just what am I doing? I'm at 6 weeks. I did 4 weeks on the lowest dose, the introductory dose, which is 2.5 milligrams of tirzepatide. I've been now, for the last 2 weeks, I've been on 5 milligrams of tirzepatide. I did make one slight change because I'm on compounded tirzepatide. I have the vials, and there's a little bit more in each vial than what the dosage would allow. So if you were to draw your injections at the recommended dose, almost all pharmacies are going to have a little bit more in there. And for me, it meant a whole extra injection. And I noticed early on that I was getting hungry and having more challenge with keeping my my food intake at proper levels on the last day of the week. So I just started a couple weeks ago doing shots every 6 days instead of every 7 days. It's a little harder to track when you had a shot than it is just, hey, I do it on Thursday. So you got to start tracking that a little bit. But that has helped me on those 7th days. I'm on getting back into the next shot and at a strength point rather than before the first month. I was having a hard time with my eating on that 7th day. I don't know if as I get the dosage higher, if that will not be a problem. And so maybe I would go back to the 7. I don't know if that would be a problem, so I might go back to the 7-day dosing, but at least right now, that's where I am. So, well, the biggest thing that I would say has changed for me, you know, before I've been periods that I've had on really large calorie restrictive diets. In fact, I was at about 1,700 calories for probably about 2.5, 3 years. And I did lose weight during that. But eventually it topped out, meaning I just plateaued in my weight loss. And including when I started adding in, I was running about 2 miles a day at one point, and still I just plateaued and it wasn't working anymore. I know now from what I've been learning during this process that calories isn't the only thing that matters. I've been on this kick that calories in, calories out, that's the thing that matters. I learned that's probably not the full picture, but I was just eating, I was eating fast food and stuff, but I was just eating 400 calories of fast food for my meal. I was getting the fast food items that were lower calorie, and it worked for me because I was able to count the calories easily from an app, you know. But ultimately that process or that method didn't work to be able to lose all of the weight that I needed to lose, and it finally just plateaued. And so when I kind of got more loose with that calorie restriction, I went back up, and in fact gained all of my weight back over time as I went back to eating. And I just know that I'm now 46 years old. If I continue to gain weight, I get heavier, let this get out of control. Everybody has said it gets harder to lose weight after 40. I've experienced that myself. And so I don't want to just continue into old age and have more and more weight that I'm carrying around and not be able to have a full life. So for me, it was time to make a change, and learning about the GLP-1 meds and how they work and what you have to do to make them successful made it a good choice for me. The biggest thing now is I have reduced through the process of this taking this med. I'm having simpler decisions about food. I'm eating a more kind of regimented diet. And it's more about consistency than it is like just being really intense with reducing calories. So I am actually staying around 1,700 calories, but I'm eating a lot of protein, not a lot of carbohydrates, and really hitting hard on my nutrition and like optimizing those calories in a way that I never did on any other diet. And I think the hunger suppression that comes with GLP-1 with tirzepatide makes it much easier to do that, because I now think about how I don't want to eat. I'm not going to eat a whole lot of food. So how am I going to get all the protein that I need in those calories? So that's been a big change in my eating habits. I have learned I'm not doing a lot of snacking. And when I do snack, I'm having very small amounts, like literally like a one serving of chips or pretzels or something like that, rather than before my one serving might have stretched into 3 or 4 servings if you actually look at what's on the bag. And of course, that's what's going to really destroy a diet at the end of a day, is eating that kind of food. So I'm eating a lot of really protein forward meals, lean meats, a lot of protein shakes, a lot of eggs and low fat cheeses to be able to make my calories. And sometime I'll share a video on here about specifically my food intake for a day to make this work. But just I have been really regimented in making that work, and the pattern makes it much easier for me. I don't like doing a lot of meal prepping. I know that a lot of people, that's how they make their diets work. I don't do a lot of meal prepping. I do a little bit more on this, very little bit more. And my wife has helped me some with some of the meal prepping for sure. But for the most part, I'm creating systems that are really sustainable for me for the long haul. The thing that has, I would say, most surprised me about being on this medication, I've shared this before already, I have almost no joint pain. I've had Achilles injuries and knee injuries that have been with me for years, and the joint pain and the inflammation in those joints is basically gone entirely, which makes me better able to move, better able to get around and do my exercise and things like that, or just to be able to do like daily tasks around the house has been much better. And because I think I'm eating so well, my energy levels are actually much, much higher than they were before. And I think it's just because I'm eating foods that are just much better for me at the same time. One of the things that I've learned in this process, and if I were to go back, I just learned this really in the last couple of weeks, is I think it's really valuable for me to use a smart scale in my weight loss process, or any scale, but I think the smart scales help me even more because I love to gamify things. So my finances and my savings and investment is gamified. You know, my reading, pretty much everything, I sort of make it like a competition with myself. I don't tell anybody else about the results or something usually, but although I guess I am here on these videos, but normally it's just for me. I like to be able to compete with myself and be able to do the next thing or whatever. So smart scales are really helpful for that, to be able to track all of it, put it in a chart, tell you how much you weigh. In fact, I can tell you what my weight is basically for the last 7 years, 8 years. I've been using smart scales and have records that go back that far of my own weight at different times, and can see the fluctuation and stuff. What I learned from this process recently is I bought a new smart scale that has the electrodes for your hands. So my old one was an old Wise basic entry level Wise smart scale, Wise WYZE, Wise smart scale, and then I just moved to the Wise Ultra Scan scale, and I'll put a link in the description for that, and that's a referral link, so if you want to click on that and let me get a commission on it, that's great. But The Wise Ultra Scan is like many of the new smart scales, has the hand grips. What I learned in this process is that if you are particularly overweight, so if you're an obese category, especially if you're really obese, those smart scales, they only have electrodes in your feet. They grossly undercalculate how much fat is in your body than a scale that also has the hand grips. In fact, from my measurements, it was putting my fat percentage at 6% less because I didn't have the hand electrodes. Now, in the one hand, all biometric scales, or these bio-impedance scales, I should say, they all have a degree of error. So they're all going to be guessing to a certain degree on how much fat and muscle and so on, hydration you have. They're all using some models that they manipulate to be able to give you the statistics that you get. So they're all just guessing at a certain level. But the hand grip bioimpedance scales have a much more accurate measure if you are particularly obese. So I would highly suggest, if you're going to do this, go out and get one early in the first week or so that you have a record of what your progresses look like. Not only a record of the pounds, but a record of how your fat percentage is changing. And more importantly, too, is how is your lean mass and muscle changing? One of the things that's been well documented is that people, when they're losing weight fast, they lose muscle mass as well. Muscle mass is a great predictor of long-term longevity in your life. And if you are losing a lot of muscle mass, you're not going to live as long, and you're not going to live as productive of years at the end of your life if you just keep your muscle mass. It's much harder to build muscle mass back than it is to keep from losing it. We'll talk other times on the video, but protein content and some strength training is the way to keep that muscle mass. To have the bioimpedance scale, especially one with the hand grips, is going to tell me how much muscle mass am I losing along with the weight. You're going to lose some, but how much am I losing along with the weight? And I'm much happier with the data that I'm getting from this the bioimpedance scale with the hand grips. And again, mine is the Wise that you'll see in the description. But the other thing that for me, I really am trying to track how much muscle mass am I losing, what is my body fat percentage, and most importantly for long-term health is how is my visceral fat changing. The fat that's around your organs, visceral fat, is the most deadly, most dangerous kind of fat that we can have. And I saw my visceral fat go from an index, it's an index score, index of 22 to an index of 20 over the course of these 6 weeks. That is a significant, meaningful health change for me. So I'm really excited about that and the progress that can be made for that. One of the things that I would say about the scales, because all of them are going to have some error, it's much more important the long-term trend, because each day you're going to get some fluctuation, and it'll say sometimes that your muscle mass has changed by 1.5 pounds in 3 days. Well, that's just impossible. That doesn't happen. But the trend of, is the muscle mass going mostly sideways or only slightly going down? Is my body fat percentage going down significantly? How is my hydration levels? And seeing those trends over time are the most valuable thing that you can do with those scales. Not the particular numbers on any given day, but is the line going down on my fat percentage? Is the line going sideways or even up on my lean mass percentage? That's really the thing that you want to use the scales for, and that's much more valuable to me. And particularly, again, if you are, and the reason I brought this up to begin with, if you are way overweight, you're significantly obese, go get one of the scales with the hand impedance. It's going to make a big difference. All right, so 6 weeks in, what's my weight loss? At 4 weeks in, I told you guys a couple weeks ago, at 4 weeks in, I was at 14 pounds lost. So I started out at 330.5 pounds, okay? I lost 14 pounds in the first 4 weeks. I have since lost an additional 7 pounds. So as of now, I weigh 309.5 pounds. So that's 21 pounds lost in 6 weeks. I'm thrilled. That's 3.5 pounds a week. Normally they say that, you only need to lose or should lose or want to lose about 1 to 2 pounds per week. I have done that without starving, without doing a lot of exercise. I've added just a little bit of strength training. I want to add some more, just a little bit of strength training, eating more than I can stand to eat. Like I'm having to make myself eat, with the way that I'm getting my protein and everything else. And I've still lost 21 pounds in 6 weeks. It's incredible. Now, granted, I have a lot to lose. I'm starting out at 330 pounds. So I have a lot to lose. 21 pounds is an incredible weight loss for me over the course of just 6 weeks. So I'm super excited about how this has gone. My clothes are fitting different already. I can start to see that. I've started to notice a little bit of change in my gut and the size of my gut, a little bit of change in my face. I'm very excited. I'm very motivated by the whole process. And so one of the things, if you are thinking about it and you're like, oh, what is this going to look like? So many people I have seen in like forums and stuff like that are saying that they're trying to, pick the right starting time. Back a month ago, it was, I don't want to start before the holidays, or I want to start before my vacation, or whatever these different things are. Guys, just start it. Just get going, and do your research, but just get going. Like, go do the thing and get started with this. You are not going to be perfect at any of this, but you can improve over time. One of the things that I have really learned, and I'll share more of this in my next video, is I learned a few food habits at a time. So just real briefly, first couple weeks was just learning, how do I use these protein shakes to be able to meet my protein goals? Because that was a challenge at first. And then secondly, how do I make meals that are going to help me progress towards those goals? So it's not just a bunch of shakes doing it, but actually real food that's going to provide nutrients. And now I'm starting to think about, okay, how am I going to get other vitamins and other maximization of my health intake, my food intake, so that I get everything that I need. And each of those has just been kind of an incremental thing. And I think over the next, coming weeks and months, I expect to continue to improve that. But you don't have to have all of that right at the beginning. I haven't started off, with a big bang on my strength training, for example. I've done a little bit. But begin making the progress, start the injections, start making the progress, and just begin to make adjustments over time that are the encouragement of having success will bring you forward. So simple rules for yourself, simple progress, get started. And I'm glad to share with you my process. If you want to click the subscribe button, come back to this channel. Glad to be able to tell you about my entire process, and also just to have a record of it so that I can know how this has gone for me when I'm hopefully a year from now at a much healthier version of myself. Click the subscribe button, come back for more, and I look forward to sharing my journey with you.